and welcome to the Block 9 Podcast Live. Good evening, everybody. Let's get the sorry, Gav, frightened you there. Good evening, all. So, welcome to the show tonight. Well, do you know what? We're just about to settle down to the off season. You know, we've got Leeds as our last game on Saturday. This gorgeous bank holiday weather to look forward to going into the weekend. And you just think, yeah, as we also start to prepare our final close down on Monday and take a break and put our microphones down, and then suddenly today, all hell kicks off. Yes, the press conference that everyone's talking about. Miron Muslic, the clip that came out that sort of set the whole of all the social channels alight again with the PAFC hashtag. What is going on? Well, look, you know, we said tonight that we are going to bring you our show. Can we come back bigger, better, and stronger, you know, from going down into League One? And there's a lot of things to consider and factors to take into account. But the one thing we weren't expecting today was a bit of a bombshell press conference from Miron Muslic, where in effect he was almost, from that clip, calling out the board for the lack of, you know, sorting out a director of football or a sporting director, you know, the contracts for players that have about to expire and those that we would love to keep in the squad that have got a year or so left. And wow, you know, sort of I was just finishing lunch, going back to work at the time, and it was suddenly like Gavin put a message in the WhatsApp group about the presser, quickly had a look, and it was almost like, wow. And then suddenly it was just noise everywhere. So, look, has it been a little bit blown out of context? Who knows? But Gavin, yeah, look, give us your thoughts on that. I know you've watched the whole presser. So, yeah, give us your take.
Well, somebody from the local radio stations earned his crust this week because it was very, very good. Bit of side cammering. I'm not sure if he's allowed to use a mobile phone in clips like that, but it was out there in no time at all. Take the clip in isolation. It's interesting, isn't it? I think he's calling out the board. It reminded me of a very well polished Derek Adams, actually. Don't mind telling you. So that was the start point, and then flicked on to the press conference when it eventually got uploaded to Argyle TV. As it goes on, there are other stuffs being mentioned. So Chris Harrington asks around, so what is the current situation? Are you talking to the board? He explained that he had dinner last night with Andy Parkinson. That conversation was, as they all seem to be, with Miron very upfront and honest. And there was apparently a conversation that was broadly positive. He then relayed to the room that the sporting director is days away from being announced, which means they must have their man. Whether they're sorting out packages with the existing club or whether they're going to wait for him to announce to his club and team that he's going, I don't know what the background situation is, but that seemed more positive. He then asked him about the situation regarding the recruitment team. And he said they were working on that. What they didn't ask was, where's Jimmy Dickinson, which was, I think, the next question. And clearly on his way up the M5, M6 to Bolton, from what we understand.
Yep.
But Jimmy's done, I think, a pretty good job all round. You'd probably rate him an 8 out of 10. Some have been good, some have been bad. But with the budget he has, I think he's done a pretty good job. And that was it. So it all... If you watch the 23 minutes of press conference of about 10 minutes, that's pleggy. So watch that 13 minutes of Miron, you'd say, clearly there's either A, a breakdown in communication, or B, that the master of communication is just putting a little pebble in the pond to make sure that people are doing their job properly. I think at the moment, if I'll be honest, I think he's just over emotional from going down. I don't think it was one piece of his mind was we were going down. Not one molecule in his body did I think he thought we were going down. And when it finally happened, the floodgates of emotions just flew out. And I think that's where he still is, if I'll be honest. And I think if you put that into context, the poor bugger's been away from his family for 4 months, seen them for 5 days over a half term. He's lived and breathed the football club. He gets in at 7:30 most mornings. He's probably one of the hardest working men in the club. And he's got everything into this, heart, soul, the whole works. And I think it's just, I can't believe it. And the thing that he said today, I think it was on the Argyle TV, was that he felt ashamed going over to the fans at Preston. That for me says a lot, that he genuinely thinks he's failed. He was asked today by one, I think it was the BBC guy, about, oh, you've had a great record, haven't you, since you've been here, and would be 8th in the table. And he was like, is that some kind of solace? And he went, absolutely not. No way is it solace.
Yeah.
Club, as an organisation, as he puts it, I love those words, very continental. As an organisation, we have failed. We were aiming to stay up, and we haven't done it. And that's a collective responsibility thing. And one person has done well or done badly. We're all in it together. So if you look at it, and I know that there's a lot of bedwetting tonight in Twitter. Once again, I think those shares in Unilever that I bought were going to get another 10% overnight. So thanks, guys. But I think there is a slight overreaction. But mainly, actually, I think it's in this way the bedwetting is justified because the clip on its own, in its own
isolation,
is just like, come on then, board, get me, I'm off. The whole conference is a lot more rounded than that, I believe. And is there a little bit of Derek in him? I think so. Is he? Was it a point well made? Yeah. Was he a bit over emotional? Yeah. I think the question needs to be asked though was the tweet he put out this evening, was that him going, I've just looked at Twitter and it's blown up in my face. I need to do something here to dampen down the flames. Or did Ross or Andy or even Simon pick up the blower and go, what have you done, son? You need to go out there and try and dampen down the flames. So I think that, in a nutshell, is where it is. Is it refreshing? I think yes. Was it justified? Probably. And was it as sensationalist as probably Greatest Hits Radio made out? Probably not.
It's one of those. We've got the clip. I've got the clip. I'll play it in a second. For those that a lot of people work busy days. I'm sure you've seen a lot of the noise, and if you haven't watched it, we'll show you that clip in a second. Andy, just to come to you, I think as you enjoy nearly a sip from your lovely bullet wine mug, it's certainly, you sort of look at it and you say, he's obviously being very smart. Miron is not silly. He's very good communicator. He's very good, obviously, in these press conferences when he's been interviewed, etc. I do agree with Gavin that, you can see that he really believed he could get us out of this situation. And his stats and his record, his points per game, as we discussed on Sunday, speak for themselves. And yes, it does add more fuel to the fire when people are rightly so questioning the board, the decisions. I mean, but you have to absolutely say that obviously with the Miron appointment, they've got it right. I don't feel any sort of director in that sort of position, CEO, owner, etc., would have appreciated what he said. And I've got the post as well with what he put out to show you in a second as well, for those that haven't seen it. So I do feel that there's an element of where he might have been asked to put that out. But none of this helps, does it? And right on the last game of the season, we're all wondering what is going to happen next season, hence this show. And then we end up with that today.
Yeah, I mean, with Miron, he paints a good picture, but you can't really brush off what he says. You've got to kind of understand that. I see a man, in a dugout, really passionate about the club. I see a man who stands on the touchline, pensive and looking at what's going on around him. I see a man on the centre spot at the end of the games, watching his players take the accolade rather than going and fist pumping. So I'm seeing that side of him as well, which is the sort of thoughtful. Yeah, I love this club manager, and I really picked that up from Miron. What he had to say today, I've only seen snippets of it, to be fair. I haven't seen the whole presser. You can see that he's frustrated, and I think as Gav touched on as well, that he's you look at it from a perspective where he could have had these people in there and they could have stayed up given the chance and the opportunity. That hasn't happened. He thinks that he's failed. I don't think he's failed. I think he's done a great job. Next season is going to be a big difference if we can keep a hold of him. But I think he's going to have to eat a little bit of humble pie, because he's just basically gone up in front of his owners and told them what for what, you know. So, yeah, I see a passionate man, and I'm very passionate, as people know, about my club. So, yeah, that's what I see, really. I just think he's going to be here for the long haul, hopefully, and we're going to see some success in the future for him.
Yeah. Sort of moving on to Steve. Evening, Steve. Just as you look like you've seen a ghost.
Looks like a ghost. I don't know about seeing a ghost.
So Steve, when you saw that today, what was your initial immediate reaction? Where did your mind go in terms of digesting what you said?
I was in shock, but to be honest, I thought, is he hinting that he wants to leave?
Yeah, it's a valid point.
And but he has got a point. He has got a point, though, hasn't he? With the new director of football, obviously the recruitment, contracts, because teams after the January transfer window, teams make plans for the summer, irrespective of which division they're going to be in. They have a budget for the Championship. They have a budget for the League One, whatever the league they're going to be in, and the whole picture. And it's like he has got a lack of staff, isn't he? He does need more staff there as well.
Yeah. Well, look, I tell you what. Let me look. I said I've got a copy of the clip. It's just over 2 minutes long. I'll go to play it now. We'll just stay quiet, let it play out for those of you that, if you really haven't seen it. So let me just clip to that now.
Not because of the lack of commitment or conviction to Argyle. I'm still here without a sporting director. I'm still here without a recruitment department. That makes the job for the head coach very, very difficult. That makes success, regardless of the competition, almost impossible. So I would love to answer these questions and to have also clarity from my point of view, because I have to leave. I have to lead the staff. I have to lead this organization, but I need also pillars. I believe, and I truly believe, in every strong organization, regardless of the competition, Premier League, Championship, League One, League Two, you need a triangle of a sporting director, recruitment, and head coach. I'm alone for 4 months. So these are the answers here. These are the questions I need answers. Adam Randall, Hardy, Bundu, those guys are running out of contracts and are targets for. Also there I tried to point out a couple of weeks ago already that we need to be fast behind them, because other teams will come. So there are some questions I need answers, and then we can speak about the future. It's never about my commitment or my conviction. I actually love this club. I'm just here for 4 months. I know it's a big statement, but I do. And in those 4 months we had up and downs, but in those 4 months, almost every single day, because I'm outside, I like to walk, I'm not hiding in my apartment when we play good or when we play bad, I'm outside. So I meet actually every single day the people of Plymouth, the fans of Argyle, the Green Army, and their support is just, I cannot believe it sometimes. Because when I went to the fans after the game, I felt ashamed. I really felt ashamed because we didn't make it. We failed them. But the support of them is, that's not everywhere the same, I guess.
So so it's he's very calm, isn't he? And composed with the way he's talking. You can see almost that he's thinking about everything he's about to say. And that was the clip that went out there and sort of got everybody fired up, even ourselves. So I think for me, personally, my own view on it is, my initial reaction was, come on, what is going on? What is happening in the club? Sort of we when we were on live on Sunday, talked about in my intro, that yes, we've made some poor decisions over the past sort of season and a half, from the Foster appointment to the Rooney appointment, and obviously then we seem like we've got hope with Miron, that the unknown, not everybody's cup of tea, and we all a bit like, wow, that was a bit of a curveball, where did that come from? And he's proven to really get the club going, get the players passionate and backfiring and committed and working together, and you think absolutely brilliant. And as we accepted, some of us earlier, some of us, up until that final nail in the coffin. But, it's like, okay, we've got something to build on here, hence the title of the show tonight. So, I think there's bits in there where obviously you would be like, you shouldn't really be saying that, you shouldn't be putting that out there. Gavin's given a bit of context at the start of the show to the rest of the press conference, and talking about meeting the new sporting director with Andy Parkinson, having conversations over a meal with that, and what's going on. But when he joined, go back to you, Gavin, obviously he came in, he got Adam Osman Basic in pretty soon afterwards, and I know people were asking for his backroom staff sooner rather than later. Why are we taking so long? And that's a point I'll touch up on a bit more in a minute. I can see the comments in the chat there. It's really all about sort of understanding what is going on behind the scenes, but not everything can just happen overnight for a number of different reasons.
No, I think the frustration around the C word again, and this time it's not consistency, it's communication. If when Miron was appointed, and I can't remember reading in the programme or having seen anything in Argyle TV, although I didn't see Andy Parkinson that morning, he went on, I'll be honest, on the breakfast show. But if they laid out really clearly in defined terms, he's our head coach, we were bringing in a sporting director, we'll be bolstering the coaching team, set piece, blah, 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 blah. And this is all going to take between now and the end of the season, then I don't think people would have their knickers in a twist as quite as tightly as they have, quite frankly. So, it's clearly not defined, because if it was, unless Miron's, the most Machiavellian of football managers in the world, he doesn't know what the updated situation is, or he's frustrated by it because he hasn't got defined terms. That's the scenario I think that I see. If you wind the clock forward post the weekend, and in, let's say, by the end of May, we've had a sporting director appointed, a head of recruitment appointed to replace Jimmy, and the investors nailed on, because they now know how much they're paying per share, because they know what league we're in and they know what capital value of the company is, I think all of this goes away, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it's all Bobby Ewing steps out of the shower and it was all a bad dream, right? But as it stands today, we're going into Leeds on Saturday with 17,000 in home park, probably 1,000 or more in our home end of Leeds, by looking at the last by. Look out for the yellow scarves and the northern accents and the whippets. But all joking aside, this could be interesting on Saturday. This really could be interesting on Saturday.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's Graham Burns has put there. Evening, Graham, good to see you in. He knows the board are not on it and has put a rocket up there derriere. I think. Do you know what? That we don't know. I always go back to this thing because we sit here and it's easy to look on the outside and criticise in any business, let alone football, where you're very much in that public eye, but. We don't know what he was promised when he joined, the investment, that big word again, that we're all sort of like, will it, won't it happen? It's still that unknown. And a lot of that could be hinging on some of the decisions going on. But I want to touch up on, and let me just go back to the comment. Sarah, evening, Sarah, good to see you. And again, as a club, we are too slow to react in every aspect. Neil Jusnip should have been replaced months ago. So, just touching on that, and like Carl, who can't join us tonight because he's working, same with Emma and Herbie, but it's Carl sort of said, we are too slow to do this, we are too slow to do that, and we were talking specifically then about the sort of sporting director. And those of us that have been in business that have seen high level appointments, certainly myself and Gavin, if you're, recruiting, a sporting director level, any director level, a chief role, these things you don't just go out there and find someone overnight. You end up employing an agency to go and carry out a process for you. It can take months. Obviously, the club are conscious of trying to find someone, but find the right person. So it's not an overnight thing. And also, if they're in jobs already, and these roles, they tend to be employed, not necessarily on a contract basis like the football manager or coach players are. You've also got to factor in gardening leave, or what's it going to cost you to buy them out the deal. So this sort of stuff, yes, it might look frustrating, but it doesn't always just happen like that.
No, but just to rebut that for a second, the challenge with Argyle, geographically we're out on our backside, but also we don't have a football man on the board anymore, right? So if Trevor East was still knocking around in the boardroom, he would have hundreds of contacts. So if the data team come up and said, we like this sporting director because of X, Y, Z, A, B, and C, Trevor East would have gone, yeah, don't worry, I know the chairman from my Sky TV days or whatever. I'll make sure we got some contact and we'll get initiations going. There is no suggestions because there is no football man on the board at the moment. That's the big issue, I think, around speed of recruitment. You know as well as I do, in any business, if you're looking for a replacement, if you're sacking someone, you're already mentally looking for a replacement. If you've got people on your board that understand that replacement and understand the characteristics and have some suggested names, you're halfway there, aren't you? Because then it doesn't go to advert and it doesn't go to agency. You pick up the phone and you have 3 or 4 off-piece conversations in a hotel somewhere over a coffee and a biscuit and say, this is our plan, this is our story, would you like to become part of it? We haven't got that at the moment because all the football people have either thrown themselves off the boat or, in Neil Dewsnip's terms, been kicked off the boat and up the road. Now, not saying Neil Dewsnip would have necessarily have been a turkey vote for Christmas and saying, I know a great sporting director who can take over from director of football, but there is no football people on the board. And that's the challenge, I think, at the moment. And we've got Miron, who's got great contacts probably in Europe, but it's the first time he's stepped foot on these soils in any kind of capacity. So there isn't that rich vein of form where other clubs can have these things done in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, maybe a couple of months. They've got a rich network to tap into. And they've got, well, I think I'll dispute that. I think we've got at this level, sporting director, I don't know what they're going to be on, 300,000-400,000 a year salary, something like that, max.
Yeah.
Similar to a chief exec type role. I think what's Andy on, a couple $100,000. So it's really big money. We're not talking about replacing Ronaldo here. And we need millions of pounds to buy someone out of a contract. It's the contact book. It's the understanding of what that looks like. Because Andy's not a footballing man. He's a chief operating officer from Liverpool. He dealt with all the back office stuff. Simon, to his own admissions, not a footballing man. He's an investment guy, right? So no one there, even if they had seconded in worst case scenario, Mr. Warnock, who lives around the corner and spends most of his time in Torbay. Look, we're looking for a director of football. What would you think? Give us some criteria. There isn't anything. And I think that's the problem with the speed of this recruitment process is there is no one there with a contact book like other clubs have where they replace one guy, especially the Premier League, it happens all the time, isn't it? You look at the Newcastle scenario with the CEO piece with Man City and back. That was a done deal in a number of weeks, even though it cost them a ton of money because they've got those networks. We're out on a limb geographically. We're out on a limb from a networking perspective. And I think that's why these things are taking much more time than they normally would.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a mixture of so much that these things just the whole thing with the backroom staff, and as Evening GT just put his comment up earlier, but fans have been asking for ages what Miron Music highlighted today. Where are the coach and staff replacements? Where is the sporting director? What's happening with recruitment, senior player contracts, etc. He got, as we said, a couple of coach and staff people in far quicker than we ever did with Rooney. I mean, there's an argument to a degree to say that Rooney didn't really have one, but the club did support that, and I think it's trying to sort of bring all this together. Simon Hallett will completely disagree with you, as he did in the fans forum, about there's no one with any football acumen on the board, because he goes on about Andrew's experiences. You highlighted exactly what that was at Liverpool. Obviously, his father involved in football as well. But I think you touch upon such a great point that, yes, we lack that, true sort of experienced person with the contacts. And also, as our club, we love it. We think people should come in and invest into it. And yes, I think there is an absolutely golden opportunity if the right people come in. But some people don't. And Andy, if I come to you next, like the Miron appointment, and everybody was talking about the options out there, and ourselves and everybody else, going like, we want this person. Oh, it'd be great to have that person, Shuey back, all that situation. But we ended up with, obviously, a final 3 in the interview, which doesn't sound wrong. And then 1 dropped out and we're left with 2. But there's part of me that says we don't know who did really want the job. And actually, when you see managers getting sacked left, right and centre, and you see clubs in this league with bigger budgets, even some in the lower league with that, and you think, well, there might be an opportunity there soon, I just want to sweat it out because I'm really not so convinced down there in the southwest.
Yeah, there's also talks about Eustace, wasn't there, and relocation, and I don't think Eustace would have been a bad move for us. But did he really want to relocate down there? I don't think he did. So Miron was the man they pulled in, and to have his own staff is only right and fair, because you've got to have people around you who can support you. Now, I think that's a role that Joe Edwards could step into quite easily with his coaching badges. He could stand alongside Miron, whether they're board are hoping on that or pinning their hopes on that or not.
Does Miron want that? In a greatest of respect.
He seems to have a good relationship with Joe Edwards, doesn't he? That's a good thing about it.
You've got one of the best technical coaches in Nadine around.
Yeah.
Everyone lauds him that he's the coach's coach, and he's one of the greatest tacticians and technical coaches there are. And he's obviously on his own trajectory as well. So I'm not too worried about the assistant staff. I think he's brought in a set piece coach, which I think many people were sceptical about, watching some crazy man wave his arms around every time there was a free kick and a throw in. But bloody hell, he must be doing something right, because our stats on defensively dealing with set piece and more importantly attacking and moving forward, where the running joke was, it's a corner, you might as well just hand it back to the goalkeeper and give a goal kick, because we can't beat the first man. That's all gone now. So that's been a big improvement.
Yeah, it has. And you touched on it, Gav, with Cornell Sukes, especially with his long throw. That's a new thing that's come to him since Muslich has been here. That's something he's implemented through
But I think where the frustration today, from what I can see from Miron, apart from the whole emotional thing, and that's more your bag, Andy, than mine. But I think his frustration today was, as a coach, as a head coach, you're responsible for the first team output. Right, so you get up in bed in the morning and you work out who you're playing on Saturday or Tuesday or Wednesday, and you've got to beat those buggers, right? That's it. At the moment, he's got one eye on recruitment, because him and Jimmy seem to have had a parting of ways. Fine, new man comes in, clean broom and all that. I get it, but he's also then sporting directing, going, what's going on with the other side of the business? They're dealing with the board. There's a big gap there. I'm sure that Andy Parkinson's had a lot of his time. Normally, he would just have a coffee with the sporting director and say, right, this is what I want to talk about at board. He might do the odd board presentation, but he wouldn't be involved himself at that level. He'd just be gone. He's not a board member. He's a head coach. At the moment, he's had, and he said it earlier in the press conference, I don't know if anyone picked this up, but it was around I've had to learn the pace of Championship football. It's 3 bloody games a week. I haven't had time to breathe. And even Foster had that problem when he came over. It was like, shit, it's another game. I haven't blinked. I haven't been on the grass since whatever. And Miron has had exactly the same scenario. So he's had a big learning curve, steep one. He's been away from his wife and his kids, which he was before, but I think
they're still in Austria.
Now he's in a high pressure environment where it's like, from day one, we're in the bottom 3. We've got to get out of the bottom 3. There's lots of must-win games. He's had to develop a new culture within the dressing room, a new style of play within the dressing room. He's got to win hearts and minds from key players in the squad, especially through the spine, and get them to think and play in a new way. So he's had his bloody hands full over 4.5 or 3.5 months.
It's been a tough ask for him, isn't it? It's been a really tough ask for him, because he's had to pull all this together himself, as you say, without that back in there. Yes, he's brought people in to help with free kicks.
The more we talk about this now, I think it was just a bit of a lash out around every fibre of me believe we could stay up.
Yeah.
But he might be thinking, but I spent that half day doing this board shit, and I spent that half day on recruitment. And I wanted to do that, fulfilling my job. So therefore, I've let myself down, and I was really doffing my hat with him earlier around, yes, I might be 8th in the league table from form in my watch, but it's a collective thing. And he's said, you win together, you lose together.
Yeah.
You laugh together, you cry together. It's a whole collective organisational thing, which I love. So I think that's the challenge, and I think that's probably, thinking about it now live, why he spat out of that, because it's the frustration of, I didn't have to do my fucking job, I had to do everyone else's. And I think that's overspilt into the press conference, and that's why we're all talking about it right now.
It can be frustrating, to be fair.
Yeah, he's very, the way he delivered it is always his calm, composed persona. So in my head, and I'm no body language expert, but I'm looking at that going, he already knew what he was going to say, when that sort of, got onto that topic. So, he knew that. It wasn't like he was, sort of like looking around and going, do you know what though? I am frustrated because of X. He wasn't showing that emotion in his body language, sat there, he was playing with his hands, but and also not forgetting, he has criticised a bit about data, isn't he? As well, which is a thing that, and obviously, Steve, you love your stats, pulling them up every now and then for us, but it's a shame, really. I think deep down over anything else, the way that the season's suddenly ending on the fact that we already know we're down and we've got to this stage where it's got all emotions up again and people are just worried, absolutely understandably, like we are, what is going to go on? Because the one thing above all else none of us want and is for the club to suddenly implode, Miron to go, the investment crumble and fall away around us, and then we are absolutely up shit creek without a paddle going into League One, and then we got no hope of what I sort of set out the title of this pod, Steve, isn't it? That's the risk. That's what really slightly worries me in terms of what the reaction can be.
If he went, certain players will leave as well.
Yeah, well, that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, they've got his trust.
Yeah, I mean, look at Martin's comments, Steve. Evening, Martin. Good to see you. Not sure if you got your mug yet, but your grumpy loyal mug that you ordered is in the post. But yeah, do you think they are waiting for the investment to come in? Martin says so they can hire someone more high profile, more expensive. Is the delay in hiring due to the investment? I don't think, because they wouldn't have given Miron a 3.5-year contract when he was unknown. Say again?
I think he's on about the sporting director. I might be wrong, Martin, but it feels like that question's around the sporting director. Are we waiting to hire a new sporting director who could be bigger profile?
Yeah. Equally, that's a good point.
Now, after 4 months of signing a 3.5-year deal, it's like financial kamikaze.
Yeah. So, Steve, what's your? Let's take it on that angle then, which is probably what Martin's saying.
A better caliber of person.
Yeah. So, are we sitting back a little bit with that in that investment? When is this investment, good, bad, or indifferent, going to actually get announced? Who knows?
Well, the investment is the key. I think. I've honestly think they're waiting for the investment. But if we're waiting for the investment, Miron may just decide to leave.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing, isn't it? And Martin's confirmed that. So apologies for misconstruing that. That could be it. Like I said just earlier, what was he promising in the interview, and then what isn't he getting as it moves along? The great big project. Remember, he sold that to Pleggy. To get Pleggy to sign a 2-year deal. That surprised us all, and we're really thankful for Pleggy committing. He's a quality player and probably deserves equally as a few others. Championship football. Pleggy also, to point out, was interviewed in the press conference. Normally I'd pull it off. We just haven't had time with everything going on with this presser. Plus, also they didn't put it on YouTube, which is interesting as well because it normally goes on there. But yeah, Steve, it's one of those, isn't it, where we just hope all this just doesn't go pear-shaped.
I just hope not.
So
we got certain players coming out of contract. We got Bundu, who contracted Spurs on the 30th of June. Was it Houghton? I can't remember.
We'll pull them up in a minute. Yeah, we'll pull that up. We have got a little slide deck we've pulled together, which we'll pull it up in a minute. Just looking at some more of the comments. Keep them coming, guys. Appreciate it, Mark. Good evening, Mark. Good to see you. Just excuses from the top all the time. Mirror music is spot on. Actions speak louder than words is in there. Also, Marcus, evening, Marcus. Hope you're well. Now the spine of the team could be leaving. That's why he wants things sorted. Absolutely, you know, you want to be able to plan, you want to be able to know where you're going to be positioning things, where you should spend your time. It's yeah, I mean, Andy, I think I'm just in shock, really, just at the whole thing that's just happened today. Because, like I said, we were hoping for get through Leeds, impact their title chances or not. You know, it's going to be a bit of an end. We're going to see them celebrate. They go up. Fair play and well done to them. And then we can just sort of do our last show on Monday night and sign off. But
Yeah,
might be more to talk
never as
about.
easy as that, is it? You know, as you already said, it could backfire on us, and the spine of the team could well go. You know, we bought Katic in, we bought Maxi in, we've got Hardy up front, and you know, you've got JB in the middle. That could go really pear shaped. We could lose a lot of good players there. You know, if we can keep hold of people like Houghton for League One, I think Houghton's good enough for League One, but
Yeah.
we could lose out big style to some of the players that Miron's actually brought in. Should Miron actually say, right, I've had enough of this, I'm going somewhere else? Hope he wouldn't.
No, exactly. I'm just getting the presentation slide deck ready, so we can move on to that now. Just going through, yeah, Accidental Pilgrim. Good to see you in tonight again. It certainly feels like we are at a crossroads. Hopefully, we don't end up with Benny and Miss Diane in charge.
He's a
Excellent.
age to appreciate that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, Mark, just with another comment, the apparent investment is taking far too long. Should have just kept quiet. Miron Music is going to be highly sought after, as will our top players. Exactly, Mark, as I've just alluded to, it is unsettling. It's these investments. You know, Gavin's our man on that, but they don't always happen overnight. I mean, Gavin was just telling me about one he's working on the other day, and it's still, you know, delays. It's you either just say nothing. But you know, at the end of the day, Simon decided to put it out there last October, and obviously, you know, everybody's going to hang him on that and hold him to it. You know, he's going to feel. I mean, Gavin, even Simon at the moment in his head. You know, what do you think he's thinking about today's events?
I don't think he would be upset with the criticism. I think he quite likes the high challenge, high support sort of environment. I think it creates high performance. So I don't think, and high performance is a big thing in the States, and I'm sure that in the investments that he makes in his company, that the boardroom and the senior management team aren't all aligned singing Ging Gang Goody around the boardroom table. I'm sure there's lots and lots of punch-ups, metaphorically. So I don't really be worried about that. He takes a lot of the stuff personally, and I think the whole, you know, you've done your time now, bugger off. I think we'll keep him a few sleepless nights. It's far, you know, investing in football is far more emotive than it is investing in Fortune 500 companies or whatever he does across in the USA. So I think that's going to challenge him a bit more. I actually think he based the we getting an investor coming on the speed in which he invested into the club when with our previous chairman.
Good point.
Because it was done very quickly. It was a phone call, and he said it on one of the podcasts that I listened to. He was driving along from state to state in his day job and discussed it with his mucker, who was in the thing next to one of his hard and loved colleagues. And by the end of that sort of car journey, he had agreed to do it. And I think, you know, had a conversation and off he went. And it was sort of done and dusted in a matter of probably 2 or 3 months. I know it was a very small investment to start with, and it grew. But that's where he probably thought, well, it's easy, isn't it? We'll go out and find another one like that, and it'll be bish bash bosh. And 3 to 6 months later, we're back in the game, and off we go. And here we are, nearly 18 months now from that window. I think it's taken a lot longer than anyone would anticipate. I think where he's probably kicking himself is, you know, rocking up when the heat was on in the middle of December in some working man's club or whatever it was down in the arse end of Cornwall, going, yeah, it's imminent now, don't worry. It's just on the last few EFL where bits and bobs. We'll, tie our laces and off we go. Monday morning, all the cash will roll in, and I'll be like Duckula, diving off the high board into the gold.
Yeah.
And here we are in May, and we've still had nothing. I think that's probably where he's kicking himself. Whether he did it strategically to try and get the heat off the whole Rooney situation, I'm not sure. Or whether it was genuine. It might well be genuine. But it certainly looks that way. And I can see why a lot of the fan base are disgruntled, saying, we've heard it all before. We've heard it all before.
Yeah.
I think
Gav,
Hallett would take that, wouldn't he, as a criticism? And I think he's man enough to take that.
Absolutely.
I look at Hallett as a man who has always been a pal, with Schumacher as a manager. I think you can't have that relationship within a club. You've got to be sort of professional about it. And I think because Miron's come on board and actually saying it as it is, then he's got to take that, and he's got to have the balls to take that.
I don't think that will be I don't think Andy Parkinson takes criticism quite as well. So if he was encouraged, we use that word nicely, to put a tweet out tonight, I think it may well have come from the CEO rather than the chairman, if I'll be honest. Or maybe CEO.
Let me just, sorry, I haven't shown it yet, so let me just bring it up.
Yeah, okay, good idea.
So Miron's tweet that he put out, sort of after an hour or two, whatever it was now, actually longer than that. So much has gone by so quick this afternoon. But just earlier this evening, actually, I think it was, I have fallen in love with the football club, but from when I first had my experience of it in London all those months ago, today in my press conference, I was over passionate with emotion still running high from our imminent relegation to League One and how much I care for Argyle. And obviously you retweeted and commented on it, Gavin, and it's got him loved, and even more of the fans annoyed about the board and pointing the finger, isn't it?
Yeah. There's a second part to that tweet, which is basically following that up. But I mean, I don't think I've seen an outpouring of support for a coach who's taken on not taken on the board, but made some comments towards the board that I think the comment I made on our pod was, you can't expect the man to climb Mount Everest in a pair of flip-flops, given that he did the job. It's outpour. I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't think in my lifetime of supporting the club, and I think someone asked me earlier about Dave Smith and Mike Ingham. Yeah, great, but they're far more patient in those days. They were both adorned, and Dave Smith's an absolute club legend. But I've never seen, and with social media now, you can see it far easier. It's in front of your eyes on your phone. The outpouring of support for that man is utterly ridiculous.
Can we have that picture up again, mate? I just want to highlight something. Yeah. You look at that picture there itself, right, and you can see Miron with his hands folded, right, and what is he doing? He's looking at those Argyle fans, and he knows he's just let them down big style, but they're still cheering and clapping them off the pitch. That's a brilliant testament to what they think about him and what he feels about them. He was upset about that.
He's reflecting a huge amount there, isn't he?
Absolutely, yeah. Sorry,
Gav. Put that photo up as well of all the photos he could have chosen. It was brilliant. At Deepdale, arms crossed, looking, and he said, he said in the press conference today, you can see why Joe Edwards said, it's the best fan base in the world. It is. We've just gone down, and I'm getting, the plaudits and the applause. Whereas, a lot of other clubs, certainly in the Championship, they'd have been volleying him and chucking rotten eggs and bottles of water and anything else they could have got their hands on. Straight down the tunnel, quite frankly. So,
and look, all this as well from an appointment of a complete, like I said earlier, curveball, and we're all like, where did this guy come from? Out of work, obviously, though we digested it straight away, after the appointment with his success at Cercle Bruges. But and it took a lot. I mean, obviously he didn't have a great start, in the initial games, and then when people were realizing that he wanted the ball hoofed up to the men up front and trying to do the high press, and it wasn't working. There was a lot of raucous going on and people questioning again, we made yet another wrong decision, and then obviously we got the Liverpool game and had a bit of a better turn of form, and fortunately for Simon Hallett and Andy Parkinson, when they did that form that you mentioned in Cornwall, it was off the back of a bit of a more positive angle, because a few weeks before it would have been a different story. And so we then go from having two managers that just, one that absolutely didn't click with the players and the fans in Foster, Rooney, which in we all knew was a hell of a gamble, and the player in his history. We got behind it because the decision was made, and we were hopeful because no one wants it to go wrong. But then obviously he started to get hated, and then Miron comes in, and at the end of it, everybody's absolutely fallen in love with him. So let's get on to that presentation. Let me just move my paintbrushes out the way while I go to the slide deck. Nod. So yeah, Gavin, so we pulled this together because the whole point as well tonight was to look at the other factors of what could help us come back stronger, and better in the league, in League One, because we all want that. We've enjoyed the Championship, even though it's been painful, but what an amazing league it is to be in. So we've got details on what's going on. So I'll hand over to Gavin. So Gavin, kickstart this, please.
Pull up Capology, which is probably about 75% accurate, I would say, from talking to some people in the club historically in the past, especially around salaries. So I think people that get hung up on the salaries on it are sometimes wildly mistaken. Sometimes they're far less, sometimes they're far more. But that's fine. So I pulled up the entire squad, broke it down between who's leaving, basically, between now and June, and who's leaving afterwards, and their key positions. So based on contract analysis for for defence, midfield, attack, and our premium assets, in my eyes anyway, 4 players are leaving in defence at the end of the year unless there's new contracts offered. Nikola Katic and Victor Paulsen are both out of contract, I think, according to Capology. Paulsen, I don't know. I don't know whether he had a 1-year or 2-year deal signed when he signed in the summer. Nikola Katic obviously is on loan. And then we got 2 left backs at the door. Pushka, unless we've got an option to buy, we have an option to buy, whether we take that option. But according to Capology, he's on like £18,000 a week and our best paid player. So I would suggest if that was his stucking point for his agent, then he won't be re-signed. And Saxon Early, who has come back from Lincoln and been anonymous. So I imagine he will leave very quietly. Midfield, which is where I think we've all agreed all year we've been our weakest. We've got 3 out the door. Will Jenkins-Davis, who's on loan to Torquay, who I think will just probably be signed by Torquay or someone of that ilk. Jordan Houghton, whose contract expires at the end of the June period, and Darker JB, who is on loan from Leeds, who is going back to his parent club as things stands. And then we've got 1 secure midfielder, apart from Boateng, who's got a 3-year deal, so he doesn't leave until 2027. And that is with Adam Randall. And he was obviously one of the talking points earlier in the press conference, saying, these guys have got contracts that are running down and everybody in the Championship are going to be all over them like a tramp on hot chip. Attack, 6 players under review in this. So there's 3 players leaving now. Michael Obafemi going back to, he's out of contract with Burnley, but he's going back to Burnley to start with. Tijani, who is Tijani is on loan with an option to buy of about 670 grand, from what I can understand. And obviously Mustafa Bundu, who has done his 2.5 seasons, 3 seasons now. So was he bought 2 years? It would be a 2-year deal.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So he's out of contract, and lo and behold, the last 3 months of his contracted period, he's turned into a man possessed who keeps scoring and assisting. I think because of Miron and the way he's coached. So they're the ones that are leaving now. We got
just on that then, Gavin, if we just go round that, on the defence, if you look at obviously Katic, the first of their Katic and Paulsen, the centre backs, Katic has been just an incredible loan. Obviously, we know Miron had to fight hard for him, and that says a lot about Miron himself as well. Eventually got his man joined at the same time as Maxim Talavirov. It would be incredible. This whole can we come back bigger, better, stronger? He would be brilliant to try and tie in for that and say stick with us. But he's going to get offers, isn't he?
I would suspect so. Look, we don't know. I mean, he lives across the road from me. Every time I see him, he seems happy enough. Although I don't think he's a man who's singing The Sound of Music as he's walking down the street. He's not that type of character. He's quite a serious, intense type of guy. But he seems happy here. He's got his busy mate in Maxi. and he's clearly adorned by the fans because he keeps getting stopped everywhere I see him for photographs and autographs. It's a funny old game, Saint, as someone once said, and he might look to stay, he might look to go. I don't know. I think he's clearly got a good affinity with Miron and Nadin, and he's very well liked in the changing room. So all those things put together, if you get the right money, you might stay. Because I think we will probably go if Miron's here and Katic is re-signed with Maxi and Paulson, and you've got the other two guys with them. That back line is going to be as good as anyone in the division, in my opinion.
Yeah, it would be absolutely. I mean, Marcus saying that, he thinks he will stay. It's a big one. I mean, Andy Paulson, he's getting on a little bit now. I mean, the greatest respect. But obviously he's, come on board, possibly topped for our most improved player. He's right up there with a couple. Again, could he could be still really useful to, going down into League One?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't see why not. He's got a lot of strength. He's a leader. He'll put himself about. Even if he's a bit slow, he'll put himself about. He'll head the ball clear. He'll just shift there, wouldn't he? And he's good at that in the right position, centre back. Yeah. So if we do lose Katic, we do lose Maxi, then Paulson, will be fine there for now. He's like a slightly older Dan Sky, if you like, but he's still a good player. Still got it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And then obviously Pushka, Saxon Early, with the injury troubles. Still remember that performance against Watford. I think was that a second game or third game, and he played brilliantly up there, and then got that ankle injury, I think it was, and that was it. And then obviously we've loaned him out. So Steve, I mean, would you say in that defence, would you take Pukac, and would you sort of offer him a deal?
No.
No,
don't think he's been good enough. He's brilliant in the first month. He's really dropped off the levels.
Well.
He's actually behind Ballymumba and Otibega now, isn't he?
Better, yeah.
Yeah. So no, I mean, Gavin, I think my views are as we sort of sign off on that defence side. I'm not sure on Pukac. He did start really well, didn't he? But if we don't get to keep the likes of Katic, if Maxi is under contract, obviously, so there would be a decent release clause. Would you then take the option on Pukac if you couldn't, sign the likes of Katic? I know different position, but when you're looking at options, would you then take him?
I think there's more to come from Pukac. I think when he came, he was running on adrenaline, and he played those socks off. I think he's knackered. I don't think he's fit enough. Although you look at him as a specimen, he looks fit enough, but I don't think cardiovascularly he's fit enough to play. I don't know where he was before. I know we didn't. We did a section. I don't think he had that many minutes on a live lounge before. I think if he was given a full pre-season with Miron and Adin and the team, I think he would probably be much better than he was, and probably towards that early performance sort of ceiling, but not at the levels of if Capology to be believed, £18,000 a week is utterly ridiculous for a man of that caliber. You're talking big money. So on the balance of it, probably not. But I think what we've seen in the last 4, 5, 6 weeks is a diluted version of him from what I've seen of him previously and what we saw in that first month when he was running on adrenaline.
Yeah, I think that could be a fair shout. We've obviously got to note the likes of Bader as well, who had a full season, was out of season. Sort of the likes of Katic, though, who weren't playing regularly either, out of favour. Maxine as well, and they've managed to show. So you're going to get that, aren't you? I mean, in the midfield though, I think Will Jenkins-Davis. I enjoyed watching him when we went to the little Torquay friendly at the start of the season. But yeah, I think there's the likelihood he's better off maybe elsewhere. Houghton, we sort of discussed this stat as well about at the time before it changed, where Houghton starting with Randall, we hadn't sort of lost, and he's obviously up for renew. For me, I would be offering him something. What would you be doing there, Andy?
Yeah, I'd offer him something. I just think him and Randall play well together. It looks like JB is going to go back.
Well, they just know each other so well, don't they?
Yeah, and I think Houghton can develop Randall's game even more. He's a good player, Houghton, at League One level, just not Championship level. So I would, I'd give him a chance, another year maybe.
Yeah, and JB, we've obviously discussed this at length on a previous show. With Leeds going up, they're probably not going to want to necessarily keep him. He tops out the most minutes played now for the club this season. I think overall he's done well. He's still a young lad, so I would definitely look at taking his option up if it came. And obviously, yes, Randall with that. Contract until next season is the big one there in midfield, Steve, isn't he? In terms of and Miron brought him up as well as the other premium assets. Gavin's noted
Just a
Hardy Gundu.
question.
Yeah,
Right, with JB's contract at Leeds and running out end of next season, would you take a punt on him and bring him in permanently?
well, which is what I was just alluding to. We said, didn't we, on previous shows that we would. We did quote as if there was, if you could get him for £1 million. He was bought by Leeds for 4 million. I think it was. There's a player there to build on. So I would, Gavin.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
He's now showing what a great asset he is. It's taken a bit of time. The kid's only still 21, right? He came to us at 19 years old. If you just put it in context, Adam Randall at this very stage of his career was still playing for Torquay, out on loan and finding his feet. JB's learnt in the Championship. So I think a massive ceiling to come. And if we bought him, I think we'd get double 8 figures for him in the future. And he likes it down here. He spent 18 months down here, and he's got a bit of root settled, and he clearly gets on well with Ogbeta and Mumba and all those boys. So yeah, I'd take him in a heartbeat.
Yeah, no, and Graham in the comments, said this when we were talking about JB in the last show. Overall, Graham feels JB has been poor. So and it's look. I mean, we all won't agree on anything, but I definitely think there's a player there to come good.
Get far more time to stamp his authority on the game. If you remember what Panucci Kamara did before we went off to Ipswich in our league. I would say that JB's head and shoulders above him, and I think Panucci Kamara absolutely ran games for us in League One when he was with us. So that's where I would say he's got a big ceiling to come.
Yeah, and I was literally about to touch upon what Marcus has put as well. JB would be better as a number 10. We've seen, and again, everything, because we've struggled, because we've gone down and gone behind in so many games, that confidence issue, but when we have, sort of played really well and got that early goal, is what you can just see the difference in those recent games. So I think there is still potential there with him. In terms of attack, then, obviously, one of our, weakest areas and constantly under pressure for getting players in, as you said, Obafemi has just been like politely have him back. Tijani said this after the brilliant sort of second half performance in the goal against Sheffield United. It was one game, and we all were buzzing because Edwards, obviously, as well, when he came on that game, we got a result and it was a brilliant second half. But, have we seen enough with Tijani, Gavin, to sort of say, yeah, he's definitely worth offering a deal?
Yeah. I think, especially at League One level. What really impressed me, actually, was his pace at Deepdale. So on the Aaron Cusack analysis show with Charlie Price, they showed a corner where it breaks out to Bally, flicks it into Mumba, and they all go like the clappers. And his speed across the grass for essentially a giant, thought was outstanding. He was matching Hardy and Bundu for pace and got himself in some good areas. I think he'd be an absolute menace in League One. If you think Cosgrove, for all his ability or lack of, depending on which side of the camp you sit in, did really well for us in League One. I think a fit, raring to go Tijani is a much better prospect.
Yeah, I think I can sort of take that and accept that. I think Andy, with Tajani, Bundu as well. I mean, cool. He's certainly put himself out there, isn't he? And when we talked about it on Sunday in terms of the top scorers for Argyle, it is Bundu and Hardy. The only difference between the two is Bundu is all straight outfield goals. 3 of Hardy's are penalties. But yeah, what a turnaround, from Bundu as well. And it just means that his asset has gone up in value. So if we want to keep him, I'm sure we do, and we're going to just have to pay a little bit more. But he's going to have clubs knocking, isn't he? Seeing that end of season performance.
Quality. If you're going to bring players in, I mean, let's look at Birmingham last season, right? When they went down, the first thing they did was went out and bought Adam Stansfield. Not Adam Stansfield, the Stansfield boy, and he scored goals for them. I think if we do the same with Hardy, especially as well, and Bundu, then we've got 2 quality players there who know where the back of the net is.
Yeah. So coming on to Hardy, sort of a lot of rumours and talk. Gavin's got a bit for us, so I'll sort of quickly come to you on that one. But Hardy, obviously, yes, Miron's got the best out of him. It's really good to see coming alive. There's a lot of talk. The way he celebrated his goal, and sort of stared around the pitch, that sort of people read into that after Sheffield United, and then rumours that he's moved house. And all this, it's starting to sort of stir the pot. So Gavin, do you want to give us a bit more of what you can tell on that?
He has moved house. He's moved about 250 yards across the road. So this is a difficult one for me. For his career, it's probably if he gets an offer now, he needs to go, doesn't he? Simple as that. He'll preserve his salary. He's 28 now. He's probably got 3 years left in him. He's already got 1 promotion under his belt with us. Does he need another? I think we need to do absolutely
2 promotions.
2 promotions. Yeah, you're right. So yeah, 1 from League 2. We need to do everything we can to keep Ryan Hardy. I think he's a club legend. He's been here now. I think this is his 6th year. He's settled in the area. He's loved by everybody. I think he again would absolutely tear up League One. Am I convinced he'll be here come end of July, beginning of August? No, I'll be honest. I think we got 2 million in release clause, from what I understand. I think it will get more. He's got a year left in his contract. Goal scorers are at a premium. There are 3 clubs coming up from League One. I don't think Wrexham would look at him again, because I think they're now looking at people like Jamie Vardy, if you read the press and believe it. But all of the other 2 teams, I think, very much would probably love his services. Or Birmingham won't. They've already got theirs. But the third team that comes up, I think, would like his services. There'll also be some teams, if it's Preston or Stoke or something along those lines, have seen 2 years now of double digits in the Championship. And even if he wasn't a starter, he'd certainly be in and around and get goals. And he's a different type, and he's a channel runner, and he knows what the back of the net is. I don't know. It depends on how happy he is, whether Miron can convince him, all that kind of stuff. So, what did he just fucking write? Gavin's a perfect person. I am. So, yeah, I've got a drone just for your. That goes up every morning, and it runs a 9-hour battery, and I put it in when I come home from work.
So basically, Voodoo's just posted, although I did chuckle at his tag name change on X earlier, which is now days since new investment was imminent. But he just posted saying, Gavin is the perfect house moving spy. He's got the removal vans view. So, I mean, there's part, actually, Gavin, where, he might be just have rented that house, so moving to a bigger one in the estate or whatever is easier to do, isn't it, than trying to sell.
Neighbour, or two doors down, apparently Michael Bailey's living in that house now. So whether they bought it off him or whether, I don't know, but he's moved across the road.
Michael Badu's right now on the phone to the police. There's this guy called Gavin Jones that lives down the road here.
It's like Celebrity Squares. It's Katic, Hazard, Badu and Hardy now. So I'm not going to say where I live, because you'll all be scattered around. But just look for the drone in the area, which is on a spot for removal vans, and then you'll let you know where I live. And there's a big bat light at night if you need it. It's fine.
I do like Voodoo's comment about Lionel Richie to Lionel Messi. Brilliant.
Yeah,
Hopefully he'll be dancing on the
regards to
ceiling next
Bundu, he
season.
said Bundu turned from Lionel Richie to Lionel Messi when his deal was ending. Give him a 2-week week deal.
We want him dancing on the ceiling next season, don't we? Yeah.
So speaking of bait, so on Hardy, yeah, absolutely. Look, and he could if he got the right deal, he might be like, what, I'll sort of finish off my career at Argyle. But if he's got an offer, he's going to look at it because because of exactly that. He's coming to the end now. Beidou, as obviously we just mentioned, is one where. Obviously, yeah, we signed him. We paid a lot of money for him. I think we can all sort of safely say, and Miron's touched on it, that we got to give a full pre-season and see what he can bring, and he could be equally an absolute menace in League One. Al-Haj, you almost think if Miron, sort of Steve hasn't really used him much, and he's sort of come out again, another controversial point or presser with Miron. He's come out sort of saying he hasn't seen enough, he hasn't showed enough. You almost think, do we just have to move Al-Haj on, or suddenly will he in pre-season want to stamp his authority and say, I'm going to show you what I can do?
Something for me tells me that he's going to move on in the summer, but something else tells me he may give him the pre-season up to end of August to see where he is with him.
I just can't. I mean, moving him on, I can't see it in terms of the price tag we paid. I mean, unless you can end up just
3-year contract did he sign?
Yeah, it's like it. I will stick with that one, and I think it's probably the right thing
The jury's out
to
on
do.
him.
I mean, just picking up equally as we talk about attackers, to end on this slide, Graham Burns' comment: Birmingham paid 10 million for Stansfield in League One. We haven't got that clout. Well, I think it was part of the deal, and that if they go up,
It's
okay.
I think it was 15 million, to be honest.
Yeah, well, it was. Look, the fact that it's double digits in the millions.
Yeah.
You worry that sets a precedent in that sort of league, and with players coming up. With Wrexham coming up. What an unbelievable. However you look at it, the Hollywood, whatever, it's absolutely worked, and just shows if you've got the money and got the right club and people behind it, anything can happen. What a dream, for Wrexham fans. So congratulations, absolutely, to them too. But it does sort of set a precedent, doesn't it? So all these player values. So we more than ever need that investment, to make sure that we can get back up, and when we do, we can sustain ourselves up there a bit better. The final one really on this slide under the premium assets that Gavin's put down, Gav, is Hazard. Besides his injury early on in the season, he's not everyone's cup of tea still, but I think he's maturing. He's starting to really come alive. This second half of the season when he's come back into the squad.
His stats are top quartile, I think, just about in the league, in the Championship. Certainly his shot stopping, he's coming for crosses and meeting the ball in the air is getting better, and I think it'll get better and better as time goes on. He'll have to do it in League more in League One, I think, because there'll be a bit more balls in the box directly. But he's just a fantastic shot stopper, and I think if you look down the spine of that side now, that's why I picked the premium assets. Hazard in goal, Randall in the centre of midfield, Hardy and Bundu as the 10s with would be Tajani or a member of that ilk up top. That's the spine of your team. For 30 odd years since I've been watching football, every commentator is like, spine of your team, you've got to get your spine of your team right, and then everything else flows. What we're saying there is spine of the team. Hardy's got 1 year left, and we're considering, is he going to stay or is he going to go? Bundu's out of contract. Randall's got 1 year left, and people are circling. And Hazard's got 1 year left, and people are 2 years left, and people are circling. So, where are we? What's going on? And I think maybe that's part of the whole. If you're looking at your chess pieces as Miron Muslic in your office, you're saying, well, my key chess pieces have all got big question marks over them, whether they're going to be in next season. What are we doing about it?
Yeah. exactly. Right. So moving on to the next slide, but just before I do, I think this is a really important point that Voodoo has made, Gavin, especially, with you only a stone's throw away. If Beidou signs a new Virgin Media contract, we'll know he's staying for another year. So you just need to keep an eye out for that van turning up
Yeah.
to reconnect the house.
He can afford it on 10 grand a week, but
He might be a BT broadband man for all we know.
Well, that's me.
Yeah.
Not
Other
here.
services are available.
not here again.
Oh, okay.
Virgin
So
only.
got in, Gav, this slide then, 26-27 contract outlook.
So yeah, just looking at basically who's here for another year. So there's 6 contractors that expire. The key ones being Hardy, Randall, and Hazard, the spine of that team again. They've all got another year on their contract. Are they going to be here? If we're going to sell them, we probably need to sell them now. There's no point waiting until Christmas and selling them in January for peanuts. But you'd want all of those really to sign another 2-year deal, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, so just touching upon Hazard again, and even Randall. Randall with also good stats. Has played a lot of minutes as well for us this season. How strongly do you think other Championship clubs will be looking at those two?
If he's looking at his stats, great. I think the only challenge that Connor will have is he can't play tippy tappy football where it's going to go. He'll have 150 touches in the first half. So that will do him some harm because that style of play is more prevalent, I think, in the Championship than it is in League One. But if you've got sides that are looking to be a bit more direct, I don't think there's a better keeper in the division, quite frankly.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
Yeah, he's definitely up there with, with one of the sort of players of the season for me.
He's no Trafford. He's no our keeper. Cooper. So, but he's probably in the top 7-8 keepers in the division, I would say. I
think a good way of describing him across the fan base would be probably Marmite. You sort of there's lots of fans that still don't necessarily rate him, and a lot that do. I think it'll be good to keep him.
I think he's much improved in the second part of the season. Early on in the season, we're playing that tippy tappy from the back football, which he wasn't comfortable with. And
then he got his injury
and moving the ball up front. He's a lot easier with that.
His distribution's got 10 times better. His accuracy passing is much, 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 much better now than it was early doors. But it's because they practice it and it's part of their tactic rather than just hoof it up. So, so I think those are the 3 key players for 2026. And then if you look beyond that again, Mumba's contract runs out in 2027, as does Al Hajj, as does Pleggy, now signing his 2 New Year deal. But this is bit stuff for the future, really. And I suppose it just shows who we have in that spine that's here for a bit, unless they get bought, and if they are bought out of the contract, it's going to be substantial compensation. But the worrying ones, I think, were the previous slide where we've got people that are either out of contract or within that year period, and that's where I think Miron's probably getting a little bit testy and teasy that he's trying to plan for next year, and these guys need to sign contracts really PDQ.
Yeah, he wants to. He really wants to sort of understand the assets that he's looking at. Where does he need to prioritize? Sort him out. Don't need to do that. I can focus on elsewhere and prioritize the spend. Go on.
Just to say, you just tick them off one by one, don't you? You've got 4 or 5, and I suppose this slide just highlights it really. Top priority would be Randall, Bundu, and Hardy. 2 have got 1 year on their contract. They're both going to be, I think, heavily sought after for Championship clubs who will be trying to ply them away. And Bundu's, as we all know, out of contract on the 30th of June. They have to be all either decision made, fee agreed, pretty damn quick before everyone buggers off on their ollybobs, or signed, I think, before we go. There's nothing worse than coming back to pre-season like we had with Michael Cooper last year, where it was, is he playing in this pre-season friendly? Oh, no, he's not playing in this one. That means he must be getting signed. Another 2 weeks went by. You need to get this done out of the way and early so that we can plan the squad. And if Miron's there, touch good, and for the grace of God, he is still here. He's got a firm idea of who's going into battle for him come late July, early August.
Excellent. No, look, I think thanks for throwing that together, Gavin. We like, as we say, for those that have joined us tonight that have not seen our show before, welcome everybody. Anyway, first and foremost, we like to just bring our style to everything. As Green Army, we are spoiled with the podcast shows that we have, and the people that just love to talk about our great club and give their views. So this is us bringing you our style of that. We like to throw in the live lounge, some presentations out where we can, and we'll pick topics. We have done since this is our 10th episode of our live lounge, the Thursday night, sort of more of a relaxed late evening. Those of you, including myself, that have kids, getting them off to bed and just talk about all things Argyle. We've discussed what the investment could look like. That was one of the first ones we did, that Gavin took everybody through with that experience and knowledge. And then Andy, where we talked about the mental sort of side of things, and when we're going through that battle of fighting to survive, and the ups and downs and the emotions that come with that. And it's one of the things that we are going to bring to you in the new season, where we will sort of look to take topics, and by all means give us a shout, send us a message, a DM, and tell us what you'd love to see. We've got a lot of ideas coming, which also brings me on to Monday. So normally on our show, we'll have this Thursday evening show, and then we'll do our Sunday post-match at 6:30, and that normally is the way that we roll with the show. But because it's the end of the season, and one thing above all else is putting something like this together does take a lot of time, effort, and commitment. And a shout out really to all the other pods, Argyle ones, and also any other football podcasts. There's a lot that has to go behind getting this together properly, assuming that you like us and that you see this as a good and proper podcast, of course. But yeah, so we're going to do our final end of season show on Monday, Bank Holiday Monday, at 8 o'clock. So we're going to go through, a little bit of a season recap, not dwelling on it because it's not been the best, has it? But also we're going to do our awards. We got a few that we're going to give out. Also our player of the season. Looking at the poll that we put out on our channel the other day, you've got Plaguey out there by quite a stretch, followed by Bundu and Hardy. There's so many things, and we've tried to put a group of awards together, because so many players, certainly in the second half of, and those that stuck with it for the whole season, have come on leaps and bounds. It was just not enough, but look, it is what it is. So that will be Monday at 8 o'clock. We'll do that. I think it's a good time to bring that to you before we close out for the season, which to a degree, I'm relaxed about our situation now, and not emotional anymore. We know what's happening. So look forward to taking a breather and preparing for League One season ahead. So just a little bit on that. Obviously, we've got one final thing to really discuss, and that is the Leeds game on Saturday. Look, there's nothing in it for us, with regard to that. But, Andy, we can still cause a bit of trouble, for Leeds gunning for the title. But after the way they played the other night, it's a scary thought.
They do look scary, but you know what? We got nothing to fear now. We know our fate, right? So we've got not a free hit, but we've got a game coming up which we could potentially do a little bit of damage with. So, yeah, they want to win the title. Of course they do, but so did Burnley, and it's going to be pressure on both teams for the last part of the season. Burnley and Leeds, and hopefully Leeds will buckle under that pressure when they come to the Vultures at home park and see 17,000 Argyle fans waving their shirts around singing "Glory Hallelujah."
Yeah, it's Steve. I don't know if you watched the game the other night, but I sort of caught bits of the second half, and you were just like, oh, I mean, obviously they know they're going up, but they're still battling Burnley for the crown, which absolutely is going to make those two last games interesting. And there's got to be some nerves there, but they just look, the speed at their attacks was just crazy.
Breathtaking. Yeah. Leeds will be going all out for it, and I think we're in for a rude awakening.
We could well be, but I think sort of, Gavin, it would be good to see us pit in that fight. I think the players and Miron, this today definitely just stirs up the hornet's nest again of negativity and concern. But really hope that we end the season. We don't, above all else, we don't want to finish bottom either. So if we can go out there and pit up a good fight, that even if we lose, if we've shown that we have the ability to go at them, that's all we want to see, really, isn't it?
I think they were exceptional against Bristol City, but I think Bristol City they wanted to cement their playoff place, so they went at them. I think we'll do what we do best. I think if we get 30% possession on Saturday, I'll be absolutely boom. I think it might start with a 2, but it might also even start with a 1. But I think in transition, we'll still trouble them. We'll play a much lower block than Bristol City did. Bristol City were on the front foot. They were trying to win the game. And, the front three for Leeds was scary. The transition was just so quick. I mean, it was probably the closest thing to a porno that Muslic would have watched in a long time, because the speed of that transition going from box to box and scoring quick goals in milliseconds, it felt like, was unbelievable. So I think we'll be lower block. It's a shame we haven't got Katic with Maxi and
Plaguey out as well.
Plaguey in the back three, because I think they'd be warriors, but Halson will be there. It looks like Such is going to play in that back three as well, but I don't think will do us much harm, because he's a good footballer and he's got a bit more pace. We'll probably, I imagine, have Edwards at right back or right wing back, which will be a bit more defensive minded. So I don't think they're getting it all their own way. They'll come and play. They'll have a lot of possession, but I don't think we'll fall into their little sordid web of, go on, come and attack us so we can hammer you on the transition. So who knows on that basis. I sat down last year to play when we played Leicester at home with my father-in-law, who's from that part of the world. Had absolutely no chance of us winning the game, and Bundu scored an absolute worldie, and we hung on 1-0. So funnier things have happened, and the mental strain of the boys now is gone, isn't it? And I think, watching Adam Randall talk earlier on Argyle TV, he was like that. We want to give a really good impression of ourselves. We owe it to the fans as a swan song for the season, because we haven't been good enough. So I think whatever 11 takes the field and whoever finishes, they're going to come on with a lot of intensity, as much as if we were looking to win the game to stay up.
Yeah, and it's it could be a further shop window opportunity for the likes of Bundu and stuff to sort of that game is going to get clipped everywhere. People are going to have eyes on that Burnley. So it's going to be one of those Sky Sports style special moments where they cut to each game during the show. But so there is an opportunity for them to sort of pit a good showing against a great side. Just putting up a couple of comments. Rossa Kernis, our campaign for League One starts now. We need to give a good account of ourselves against Leeds. Exactly. An important one, actually, this one from Graham Byrne. Please, everybody, keep off the pitch. It's a criminal offence, malarkey, as he said. There is no hope no chance whatsoever that you're going to keep those Leeds fans off that pitch. So let's just hope that the £50,000 fine that is going to be incoming is a nice
and
little
gesture
from Leeds. Say again, Andy?
And the 10-point deduction.
Oh gosh, yeah. Imagine. So you're not gonna not that Leeds lot. And look, it's going to be a good atmosphere. It's a bit sour because obviously we're going down, and if they win the title, fair play to them. That'll be an interesting experience on the pitch as well. So, and the Barbican is going to be a mess. Whatever happens.
10,000 Leeds fans.
Say again, Steve.
10,000 Leeds fans coming down apparently.
Yeah, tickets are exchanging for lots of money. I mean, you have been warned. The club have warned. They are going to potentially check ID. You are risking your season ticket, whether or not you care. Some might have given up and thought, I'm not going to renew anyway, so I might as well make a few quid out of it. But we certainly don't condone ticket touting on here. But yeah, look, we've got it to look forward to. Let's see what happens. Let's see what comes of the fallout of today. Gavin, any final words from yourself?
Well, just one person who's not been mentioned tonight, I think he was in the comments once, which I'm really looking forward to see actually with next year in mind, is Boateng. Is Maliki Boateng.
Yeah, he has a couple mentions, yeah.
Because Hazard's got a dicky toe, So I think he might just make the bench, but he's certainly doubtful. It's not Hazard, sorry, Houghton. Brain's gone. Too late at night. Houghton is got a dicky toe, so I don't think he'll make the starting 11. He might make the bench, but it sounded doubtful. So I think it might be Boateng and Randall and one of our little nippers who likes playing against Leeds on the bench, who's only ever played against Leeds, I think, in Brentford, bless him.
Caleb Roberts, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not about, sorry for those who
That's
didn't
right.
get the joke. So I think Roberts will go, oh, hello, guys, nice to see you again. I never play you bloody lot. But he's the one person I really want to see, because I've been very impressed with the small glimpses I've seen of him. He hasn't had much game time, I think, because of Darko JV and obviously Randall being a cemented position. So he will be the one that I want to look at on the weekend with a bit of
with his new contract.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He looks like he's athletic, tall, combative. So I'll be probably paying a lot of attention to him on Saturday as a one-off, rather than looking at the score, because it's kind of irrelevant, really.
Yeah. What do you on that note? What do you think then? Thanks, Andy, for the prompt. What do you think the scoreline will be for you then, Gavin, on against Leeds?
We could either nick this 1-0 or could lose 3 or 4-1. I think if Leeds are insatiable as they have been, they might just be too strong. They're by far the best team in this league, aren't they, by a country mile? But the other game interests me more, because if Millwall play like they did against us at home park at Burnley, they're going to get absolutely slaughtered. So,
well, look, yeah, who knows really what we're going to see.
I'll stick on the block and say a 3-1 Leeds win.
Yeah. To add to, as actually before I come to Steve for his final thoughts and score prediction, Martin is saying, Leeds are ahead of Burnley by 14 goals. They do have a nice goal difference. So when we beat them 14-0, not only will we stay up, but they'll also stop them getting crowned champions effectively. I love that. So Steve, what's your sort of final thoughts and score predictions then?
Well, basically, I think we can come at them winning the second and third balls again, triggering that high press like we've done against Coventry, because every single goal were ball retains.
Yeah.
I think Leeds will score, but I'm going for a 2-1 win.
Fair enough then. Andy, your final thoughts and where you going with the score?
I'm going to go, and we're going to spoil Leeds' party. There we go. We're going to win 1-0, as I always say. And I think that Bundu is going to score it, just like he did against Leicester all those months ago. So, I'm going to go out with it. We're going to go out with a win, and we're going to start our League One campaign, with a winning mentality. So that's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, fair enough. Accidental Pilgrim, best slide since Chris Whitty was doing his thing. And also, I will sort of end on another one of his messages earlier. So, hands up, who's buying the newly released Argyle Hawaiian shirt for the summer? For those that have been seeing that on their feed, this Argyle shirt. That's being touted about. It doesn't look too bad, in fairness. Say again, Andy?
Sponsored by the Block 9 podcast.
Yeah, no, we would come up with a far better shirt than that. And yes, of course, there will be some more merchandise to come. We will share a lot of what we're going to do as we start to build it in the off season. I must admit, I am, though, after Monday, Monday's final show, which I'm really looking forward to. I'm going to enjoy a break from it all, that's for sure. But so for me, my score prediction, I don't normally bet against us, but now we're down and done. I think we will score, but I think Leeds are just going to show that class and go and win the title. I think it's going to be 4-2 to Leeds, dare I say it. So we shall see. But the fact that we can enjoy whether or not they're going to do it and do it easily, or we're going to give them a run and watch that Burnley score, as all Leeds fans will as well, just to see what happens. And we'll be a part of two, great sides that are going up. Leeds, will look formidable going up, I'm sure, and Burnley, but you don't know. All that can happen. Look who's coming straight back down. So on that note, look, gents, great to have your company. Gavin, Steve, Andy, as always. Thank you to everybody that's joined us tonight on the back of that presser earlier on today. Look, let's hope things get sorted, the dust settles, and we can actually look forward to ourselves coming back bigger, better, and stronger. Because we all want to get back in this league, and yeah, we've got to look at Exeter again next season. The good banter and fun that will come with that. So, and Graham just signing us off with Atletico Bilbao 0, Man U 3. Wow, there you go. So a team that it could have been literally teetering on the outside of relegation, doing it in their only hope for a success and a trophy this season. How the mighty have fallen, eh? So on that note, we shall see you all, like I said, Monday at 8 o'clock, where we do our final show, season wrap up and awards. Enjoy the game and enjoy the bank holiday weekend. We'll catch